Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. I'm Yoonji Kim, today's MC, and a student here at Korea University. Wow. Thank you. Welcome to the ARC Conference 2019 for Multi-Scale Resilience Practices. First, allow me to introduce Ojung Eco Resilience Institute and Asia Resilience Center. Ojung Eco Resilience Institute, also known as OJRI, was established in 2014 by donation of Dr. Nam Kyu-min, and it focuses on ecosystem resilience and sustainable development. Asia Resilience Center was established in 2017 as one of the OJRI's activities, and the center has since been affiliated to the OJRI. ARC is a scientific opinion board with a bottom-up approach to long-term sustainable social ecological systems in Asia. Beyond Asia, the ARC serves as a bridge between resilience research institutes from a national scale to an international scale. Last year, the very first ARC conference was held here in Korea University, and today I'm glad to announce that we'll hold our second ARC conference for multi-scale resilience practices. On behalf of the OJRI, Professor Woo-Gyun Lee, the director of OJRI and the chair of the ARC Conference 2019, will declare the opening of the year's ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Woo-Gyun Lee with a big round of applause.
Honorable Professor Jin-Taek Jung, the President of Korea University. Honorable Board of Directors of ARC Conference 2019. Professor Ming-Hong Wong, Education University of Hong Kong. Professor Yo-Wan Son, Korea University. This both professor is a co-director of ARC Conference. Professor Nanti Bolan, the University of Newcastle. Professor Chao Sheng Chang from National University of Galloway. Professor Brian John Wright, University of East Anglia. Honorable plenary speakers, Professor Zoran Bojnovic from IHE Delft, Professor, Dr. Kraxner, Florian Kraxner, one of my best friends from IASA, and Dr. Jong-an Jung from APCC. And Honorable Professor Kyu-hyuk Kim, Dean of College of Life Science and Biotechnology, and Professor Jung-Kyu Kim, former director of OJRI. Participants, guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the organizing committee of ARC Conference 2019 and Ojung Eco Resilience Institute, OJRI of Korea University, I'm honored to officially declare the opening of the second ARC Conference 2019 here in Korea University. I'm happily welcome all of the participants and guests to the conference, and I hope you are all comfortable. Our OJRI was founded in 2014 and affiliated to Korea University with the generous donation of Dr. Nam Kyu-min. His passionate goal is for OJRI to become a world-class institute for leading research, education, and training in the field of ecological and social resilience. Through OJRI establishment, we are envisioned to engage in national and international academic growth, breeding of ideas, knowledge for nurturing a more resilient world. Today, at this distinguished gathering and on behalf of OJRI and ARC members, I am privileged to convey our utmost gratitude to our founder, Dr. Nam Kyu-min. To put our mission into action, OJRI currently hosts several international organizations, including Asia Resilience Center, Middle Latitude Region Network, Sustainable Development Solution Network Korea Office, global carbon project, etc. Ojiri will provide logistical and financial support for these front-runner to conduct top-notch researches and education in the field of resilience internationally. These days, we have been experiencing uncertainties, imbalances in a changing world, and strong ask to secure our global society for future as well as current generation. You are asked to take a new way of thinking and acting for better decision-making in solving our facing challenges and problems such as climate change, biodiversity loss, international disaster, regional conflicts, and environmental pollution, etc. The science and technology usually contributes to solving our facing problems and ensure sustainable development of our global society, but science and technology sometimes threaten our identity and dignity of our humankind when they are used just for selfish interest of specific groups. In this connection, we must pool our knowledge and expertise and resources to crush these self-interest groups and harness science and technology to turn our facing challenges into opportunities. The ability to share our knowledge and technology based on resilient thinking will lead us to achieve sustainable development of our global society. We are now in a university. The intergenerational sharing of our experience will be also very important for our common future. We are in the same place here in Korea University together for sharing our time experienced by our individuals. I hope ARC conference can be a space where resilient thinking are pursued together through sharing our knowledge and experience. Personally, I recognize one way for resilient thinking these days. I thought always time close to ourselves is not flowing and no longer live, but space where time shared will be rather alive. Please actively share your precious knowledge and experience with your beloved participants here in ARC Conference 2019. It will be a way for resilient thinking. Finally, I would like to commend the organizing committee of ARC Conference 2019 and OJERI STEPS for working hard to make his conference happen. I would also once again thank Honorable Professor Jin-Taek Jung, the President of Korea University, for blessing this conference with his presence here and sharing his wisdom. To end, I wish all participants a very fruitful conference and enjoyable your space and time here in Korea University and Seoul. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Eugene Lee. Please give him another round of applause, please. Next, I would like to invite the President of Korea University, Professor Jin-Taek Jung, to give a welcoming remark. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a big round of applause.
Distinguished guest speakers, presenters, invited guests, and ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Korea University, it is my great pleasure to warmly welcome you all to the Asia Resilience Center, ARC Conference 2019. Human being has lived on our beautiful planet for a long time, sometimes usually in good partnership, but sometimes in conflict with each other. While the world achieved prosperity through ceaseless development, we do experience severe global risk as well as local and regional conflicts at times. Global risks such as climate change, environmental degradation, urbanization, poverty, and rapid aging population cannot be dealt with individual efforts alone. They must be mitigated and resolved through joint global efforts. For example, the Paris Accord was finally concluded in December 2015, in which countries agreed to commit to lessening the contributing factors to climate change like greenhouse gas emissions. During the same year, members of the United Nations agreed to pursue the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are the blueprint to achieve a better and most sustainable future for all. Resolving global issues together requires us to develop a new paradigm. Resilience can be considered a new pathway to sustainable development. It is the capacity of a social ecological system to withstand disturbances and other stress factors and develop a system with a well-functioning structure. A resilient society can be achieved by combining experimental knowledge with other fields and building a multi-scale network together. The Asia Resilience Center, ARC, which was the first founded in 2017 and affiliated to the Ojung Eco Resilience Institute, OJERI, which is an intellectual hub dedicated to address such challenging missions and to enhance the capacity of social ecological resilience. OJERI, which was founded in 2014, and ARC together can play pivotal roles for achieving such a resilient and sustainable society. I would like to take this opportunity to express my most heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Min Nam-gyu, who is paving the way for the better world through his honorable and generous donation to the Ojung Eco Resilience Institute. As the president of Korea University, which was founded in 1905, which has led Korean society ever since, I have strongly advocated human KU, creating new value. Korea University is striving to foster creative talent to contribute to the better world. A better world could be thought of as a resilient society, and creative talent could be cultivated through resilient thinking. Technology should be developed and utilized to help resolving the mega problems the world currently faces and contribute to create new value added for future and human beings. The social problems we face can be overcome by clearly recognizing them, possessing proprietary technology and strong capabilities, and cooperating to resolve the problems through sharing the partnership. Hopefully, resilient thinking and society can extend beyond Korea and Asia. It is my sincere wish that second ARC conference will serve as a launching pad for a solid partnership for peace and prosperity of people and planet. I thank you all for being here and engaging in such an important discussion today. Special thanks goes to the organizing committee of ARC Conference 2019 for your dedication and hard work to put this conference together and make this event possible. To all of our dear guests and delegates, I wish you all the enjoyable and proper time here at Korea and Korea University. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your sincere remark. Now, I would like to invite Professor Min-Hung Wang, the co-director of the ARC Conference 2019 and a professor at the Education University of Hong Kong, to give a congratulatory remark. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Min-Hung Wong with a big hand.
Good morning. Professor Zhong, Professor Lee, I think this is indeed my honor and pleasure to give this congratulatory remark. I was so honored 2 years ago, I was named a co-director of this ARC. And I'm really glad that this ARC conference has become a conference series. I'm very glad to see all our new friends and meeting some new friends. So hopefully we will interact a bit more during the conference. Now, as an international center of excellence for resilience and sustainability science, I firmly believe that the ARC would have a major role to play, especially in compacting problems which are commonly encountered by Asian countries, which have been developed rapidly past 20, 30 years, rapid socio-economic change, urbanization and industrialization and so on. Now, to give you some good examples, transboundary movement of electronic waste would be one, where these electronic waste are moving to less developed countries, and generation of all these toxic chemicals through rather primitive techniques are imposing quite a bit of ecological and environmental health. The second example would be the overuse and abuse of plastics. All these plastics, microplastics, together with the chemicals associated with plastics, like bisphenol A, which is a constituent of plastics, and also phthalates, which are additives of the plastics, and they are endocrine disruptors. In addition, these microplastics would also absorb a lot of potential toxic chemicals. So the long-term effects of these plastics and microplastics on imposing adverse effects on the environment and also human health are not yet known. So we should have a lot of work to do. So there's an urgent need for the ARC to initiate some joint projects with some Asian countries. So eventually we will play a bit more important role in solving some of these problems. Now, the major theme of this year's conference would be multi-scale resilience practices, and we have lined up very compact program for the 2 days, and then I sincerely hope you will all enjoy the program. And in addition, if you have time, you have a bit of sightseeing of Seoul, which is one of my favorite cities on earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Min-Hung Wong. Before we end this ceremony, I would like to make a few announcements. Your lunch will be served on campus after the plenary session at 12:20. Please follow the staff for direction. The committees of OJD and ARC, invited speakers and professors, please make your way out to the lobby for a group photo in a minute. With this, the opening ceremony will be concluded. Thank you very much for being here.
We're going to start the plenary session of ARC
2019. We're a little bit behind on schedule, so we're going to start right away. Let me introduce 5 plenary speakers today. The first speaker is going to be Min-Hung Wong. Let me introduce briefly about him. Professor Wong is currently an advisor and research chair professor of environmental science at the Education University of Hong Kong And he is also a distinguished visiting professor of School of Environmental Science and Engineering at Southern University of Science and Technology, Shenzhen, China. He is a highly cited researcher at environmental science field of the study, and currently he ranked 24 in worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Minghong Wang.
What I would like to do is to give you some overview about the transboundary movement of electronic waste, starting from, say, 2000, year 2000 and then up to now. I have problems. Okay. So I would like to give you some background about what electronic waste. I'm sure you know what the definition, and then the techniques people use to recycle some primitive techniques. Now I'll give you some information about China. Now tighten up the border. You see, electronic waste used to go from various countries to Hong Kong first, because Hong Kong as a free port, and then all this electronic waste would be smuggled through the border, end up in some mega recycling sites like Guiyu and Taizhou. And then I will go on to talk a bit about Hong Kong. Now, the contents of my talk will largely based on two articles recently came out, one in Nature Sustainability and another one in critical reviews of EST. I'm sure everybody agrees toxic chemicals seem to be a worldwide concern. Now, this is a project I took part quite some time ago now, a bit outdated. This is mainly to deal with the emerging chemicals management issue in developing countries and countries with economies in transition. So this is a summary table, and if you have good eyesight, you can see the ranking of these. And then heavy metals stood out as the most urgent chemicals we need to pay more attention. Now, categories of electronic waste, there would be a lot of household appliances, all this IT, telecoms, equipment, electronic tools, and so on, toys, and so on. So e-waste has become a problem because rapid technological changes, increase of the purchase, and then more electronic waste is generated. And then these electronic waste in some countries, they are disposed of in landfills, and then affecting human health. How much is e-waste is there? Unfortunately, there seems to be a rapid increase the past 10 or 20 years if you look at the data. And then China produced a large amount, about 8.5 million tons domestically, and it is estimated it will catching up the US in a few years' time. So far, because of the tightened control of the electronic waste of China, so these electronic waste are now stored in Hong Kong, quite a bit of them. So imposing problems because they are on our backyard now, and then finding the way to go to other countries. I just want to cite an example. I'm sure Nancy will be very familiar with this. This is a project I took part with Ravi Naidu, a PhD student from Korea. Not Korea, I'm sorry, from Thailand. He's now head of a department in Hat Yai. This is update information, Nancy, and she's doing very good. At that time, she was looking at the leachate, which contain all these heavy metals and organic pollutants generating from this electronic waste disposed of in the landfill. Now, this is a map showing you the original routes of electronic waste. So a lot of these wastes are coming from the States and then other sort of more well-developed countries into Asian countries, in China at that time, and also other relevant countries. Fortunately, the e-waste regulation are becoming tighter and tighter since 1990, 2001, 2012, and then recently issuing some catalogs of soils waste forbidden to be imported in China, and also different types of solid waste, including plastics. So now we have problems in dealing with all these waste products from in other countries, in receiving countries. Now this is the more recent map, 2016, 2017. So some of these electronic waste are diverted to other countries, unfortunately, taking advantage of their less stringent regulatory, their less stringent regulations, and also cheaper manpower. So accumulation of China, of e-waste in China, this is a general view. So you can see there seems to be quite a bit of electronic waste generated domestically in China. Now, going back to these mega sites for recycling electronic waste, I'm going to show you the detrimental effects of these primitive techniques in recycling e-waste. There are two sites we have been working on. One, the red one, is Guaiyu, which is in Guangdong province, and then the pink one, well, it doesn't look like pink here, yellow one is Taizhou, which is in the middle of Zhejiang province, and then the green one, we are trying to use it as a control site. So there has been a changing role for Hong Kong in global illegal e-waste shipment because of all this regulations set up by China. And now, after 2012, we have quite a bit of problems in dealing with the electronic waste coming into Hong Kong. Bearing in mind, Hong Kong is very small, with 7.5 million of people. So we have more and more electronic waste stored in Hong Kong, and then not long ago, I think 2 years ago, the Basel Action Network, a watchdog for the United Nations Basel Convention, they spent 2 years in investigating the problem, tracking down the pathways of this electronic waste by having these electronic waste tagged with some device, and then eventually found out they end up in Hong Kong. So we have problem. If you look at the map of Hong Kong, really very small. The northern part is Shenzhen. Now every week I travel through Hong Kong to Shenzhen. So I work at the Education University of Hong Kong and also the Southern University of Science and Technology. And I'm glad to meet somebody from engineering school this morning, and he's from Korea. So we have some sensitive regions in Hong Kong, and then the northwest part is the Ramsar site, where we have a lot of biological organisms, and we seem to have a bit of farmlands and also fish ponds around that area. So imagine these toxic chemicals would be emitted through the storage. Even storage, you will emit toxic chemicals, and also recycling. So we have two projects some time ago trying to look at the soil contamination and protection guidelines in Hong Kong and also the management of e-waste in Hong Kong. Skip this. If you look at the potential PTS, persistent toxic substances, generated from the electronic waste, and you will see a wide range of toxic chemicals. The TV plastic casing containing flame retardant, PPDE, the cathode ray tube containing lead, screen display, mercury, cables full of PVC, and so on. Now, if you are familiar with the Stockholm Convention on POPs, there are some requirements for putting these chemicals into control. The chemicals are very persistent in the environment. They will cause a lot of health effects, and also through bioaccumulation and biomagnification, the toxic chemicals will become extremely high in top carnivores. And that would be long-distance travel. And a lot of these chemicals are generated from electronic waste, could be classified as these toxic chemicals. So there would be environmental and health impacts of this uncontrolled recycling of e-waste. When we talk about e-waste recycling in these areas, they tend to use a manual separation of the products, desoldering of printed circuit boards. You try to heat the circuit boards on top of an open fire. So obviously, when you heat something containing plastics, you tend to generate dioxin into the air. And they try to extract precious metals like gold, silver, and platinum from the waste materials using acid bath, so very acidic. And then eventually there will be open burning, because open burning is the best way to get rid of your electronic waste, reducing the volume into ashes, and then you flush them into the waterways. Not very good practice, though. So all these toxic chemicals are generated in the water, in the air, if you have open burning, and especially if you try to heat the cables in order to extract copper from inside. The copper will serve as a catalyst, so you generate even higher concentration of dioxin. These workers, without the knowledge, they are risking their life. So all these chemicals generated in the air, and the place would act as a transformer, toxic transformers, transforming into certain chemicals. We have difficulty in analyzing them. Even our German partner, who has a wide range of analytical equipment, they find it difficult. So in terms of Taizhou, this is another different story, because Taizhou, they are recycling a lot of transformers, so PCB seems to be a problem in addition to all those toxic chemicals we talk about. So in Hong Kong, we also work on this wide range of toxic chemicals in the soil in one of our projects, and then we found out there seems to be quite a bit of toxic chemicals compared with the data generated from Taizhou and also Guaiyu. So all these toxic chemicals are in the soil. They eventually emitted through the storage and also some primitive techniques for recycling, and then eventually we compare the data with the Dutch guidelines, and we found out quite a bit of soil, some former farm soil are contaminated, exceeding all these regulations. And then we were interviewed on the TV, and two years ago. Now, in addition to our research, which was started in 2003 in Guiyu and Taizhou, so throughout the years we have been publishing quite a bit of papers, about 70 of all these papers. So not only our group, but there are other groups in southern part of China, namely the Institute of Geochemistry in Guangzhou. They're doing very nice work. And we found out there seems to be a lot of adverse effects on the environment and also human health. So these are the summary of all these toxic chemicals, all these effects, ecological risk, and also human health risk, sort of summarized here. Now the site, I'm going to give you a bit more details, is the Guiyu site, which has transformed from a small fishing village to a mega electronic waste recycling site. So the soil and air are extremely toxic. So this is one bioassay test, and we use bioassay test and also a battery of living organisms for testing cell lines, also algae and crustacean, fish, and so on. And we found out they are extremely toxic. So we look at human samples. We collected samples, human samples from the hospital, and we try to work on the chemicals. So no need to say it. These samples contain extremely high concentration of all these toxic chemicals. And then throughout the survey of food consumption, and we found out the dietary intake of these people by doing a food basket analysis. And then eventually we found out those two sites, affected site compared with the bottom one, the control site, those food items collected locally, especially fish, freshwater fish, tend to contain very high concentration of all these toxic chemicals. And in this particular slide, I try to show you PBDE, flame retardant. So if you look at the estimated daily intake and also the effects on adults and infants, and these adults, workers as well as residents, and also infants, if the infants are fed with mother's milk, they are under very high risk. So cellular damage and health impacts also carried out by other people. There will be DNA damage, gene expression, thyroid function will be affected, lung function is also affected, and also reproductive health, and then growth and development, and even mental health. So throughout the years, we have, well, not only our group, but other groups in the world tend to generate a lot of this evidence. So we also collected information, some epidemiological data from the hospital, and we found out only 3 years data though, but we can obviously see abrupt rises of certain diseases. A, digestive system, B, malignant tumor, C, cardiovascular system, and D, respiratory system. So we need to deal with these problems. We are hoping that the same mistakes will not be made in Hong Kong and also other countries. So we need update e-waste regulation and policies, and we need soil protection and remediation, the lessons we learned from China dealing with all these toxic chemicals, and also the activities generate these toxic chemicals. So we have amendment to the waste disposal ordinance in Hong Kong, and then try to implement producer responsibility scheme on the waste. And we have a joint venture nowadays in Hong Kong with a German company called ALBA, Integrated Solution. We have a recycling activity built inside the eco park in Hong Kong. And we try to look at the soil protection and remediation guideline, and we don't seem to be very satisfied with the guidelines which are stipulated by the local EPD. So we need to work a bit further on that. In terms of soil remediation, I think we have quite a bit of lessons learned from China in dealing with this problem. For example, they have done a nice job in Taizhou, try to use bioremediation, phytomicrobial remediation, and using wetland for detoxification. So in Guaiyu, the area has been cleaned up quite a bit. And then they have, in this area, Circular Economy Industrial Park, established in 2012. One of my colleagues, Professor Ann, is working on this. And then eventually, the area has been cleaned up nicely by the local government. Now, this is a slide I like to show you. There are a group of people trying to monitor what happened throughout the years when the regulations are getting tighter. There seems to be improvement in terms of emission of these toxic chemicals, PCDD, PCDF, which are dioxin and furan, PCB, and also PBDE, flame retardant. So, suggestion for Hong Kong, I think we need to digitize our soil, cleaning up the contaminated sites, learning from China, and then we perhaps produce biochar using food and food processing waste, try to avoid all this contamination of our food. So conclusion, I think there seems to be enough evidence of environmental and human impacts because of the uncontrolled e-waste recycling, which is extensive and severe. I think if you show the government there seems to be adverse effects on human health and also economic loss, the policymakers will then become more alert. There seems to be long-term effects on human health. We still do not know much. Regulations should be fully enforced. It's no good to have regulation and yet you don't enforce them fully. We need to have cost-effective control on the emission of this PTS, and we should have effective remediation techniques. We should remediate the problem sites. The adverse effects may be prevented in Hong Kong, but it can be only solved via national and international collaboration. I'm sure this would be the same for other countries nowadays receiving this electronic waste because China now has very tight control. So I think I need to stop now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Please give him another round of big applause. Yeah. Because of time limit, we're going to skip quick question and answer session. So if you have any questions after the plenary session, you can ask him individually, please. Okay, let me introduce second speaker for plenary session. Second speaker is Nanti Bolan. He is a professor of environmental chemistry at the University of Newcastle, and he's a Global Center of Environmental Remediation leader. And he's also a globally highly cited researcher from Web of Science, and he's a fellow of American Society of Agronomy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nanti Bolan.
Good morning. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to give this presentation. Thank you very much. The title of my presentation is PFAS, Beyond Defense. This is the outline of my presentation. What are PFAS? the sources of PFAS input, the dynamics of PFAS compounds, that's the interaction with soil, the exposure and toxicity of PFAS compounds, the remediation of PFAS compounds, and some conclusions. Now, what are PFAS? Now, PFAS are per and polyfluorinated alkyl substances. They are aliphatic substances containing carbon atom on which the hydrogen is replaced by fluorine atom. So basically, they are carbon-fluorine bonded material. And carbon-fluorine bond is the strongest bond in organic chemistry, one of the most strongest. Therefore, these chemicals are resistant to heat, water, and oil. So they are flame retardant, what Professor Ming Wang just explained to you. PFAS are used extensively in firefighting foam, non-stick cookwares, food wrappers, and also carpet and fabrics and medical application and also plastic manufacture. It's very widely used to resist fire. Now, PFAS includes both polymers and non-polymers. There are 5 groups of PFAS. I'm not going to go in detail, but the important one are, there are 2 of them are very important. We call them PFOS, PFOA. There are more than 2,000 PFAS chemicals, but these 2 are the most important one, which I'll be talking. So that is about PFAS. They are flame retardant chemicals. What are the sources of PFAS? There are many sources of PFAS. This gives the sources of PFAS, input to soil and groundwater. But the most important one are 4 of them. Firefighting foam, which is extensively used, landfill leachate, biosolid, and recycled water. These are the 4 important sources of PFAS getting into soil and groundwater. Just to give you an example, this is in Australia. More than 90 sites are investigated for PFAS contamination because the soil and groundwater PFAS concentration is exceeding. There are a lot of concern about that. Now, these sites include airport, defense site, fire brigade, training grounds. These sites use aqueous firefighting foam that is full of PFAS. So that's the main source of PFAS. Just to give you one more example, this is in Korea. There have been number of studies on PFAS in soil and groundwater in Korea. So there are some cases where the concentration is exceeding the guidelines. Since 2013, Korea has implemented the monitoring of PFAS compounds, those 2 important PFAS compounds. Now it is becoming a restricted material for use under Persistent Organic Pollutant Control Act. So under this act, PFOS, which is the very toxic one, is restricted use, except where you can use under Stockholm Convention. So Korea is very strict with the use of this chemical. Same in the case of Australia, where I come from. So it is an issue, but majority come from firefighting foam. However, PFAS also comes from landfill leachate because PFAS is used in kitchenware, carpet, clothes, everywhere. So this gives the concentration of PFAS compounds in many countries, including Australia. So you can see the concentration is exceeding the guidelines value. So landfill leachate is also an important diffuse source of PFAS. In addition to that, PFAS also end up in wastewater treatment plant. Again, PFAS is extensively used. So conventional sewage treatment plants are not efficient in the removal of PFAS. So PFAS has been detected both in the influent and the effluent in wastewater treatment plant. So majority of the PFAS end up in biosolid, which we call sewage sludge. Luckily, Korea doesn't use sewage sludge. Australia, we put biosolid into the soil. So biosolid is a major source of PFAS. So this is the guidelines for PFAS limit in biosolid. According to that, if we use German limit, 25% of the Australian biosolid cannot be utilized. If we use UK limit, Brian, you are pretty strict with the limit, so we cannot use 44% of the Australian biosolid. So biosolid is an important source of PFAS. So you all must be wondering what is this picture over there. That is dung beetle in Australia. Professor Ming Wang is very familiar with this. This is a very popular dung beetle insect in Australia. Very valuable beetle. It will incorporate the dung with the soil. So we talked about what are PFAS, what are the sources. The main source is firefighting foam, which is used in defense. In addition to that, we get it from landfill leachate and wastewater treatment plant. Most of the complaint so far has been defense. But you get the PFAS in other sources. That is why my title was PFAS Beyond Defense. You cannot defend PFAS, it's a toxic material. But it also comes beyond PFAS. Now let us look at the dynamics. When I say dynamics, it is the interaction of PFAS with soil and groundwater. PFAS interact with soil a number of reactions. The most important one is adsorption, leaching, redox reactions, degradation, plant uptake. PFAS is very resistant to heat. Therefore, volatilization is very, very limited. Let us go into some of these reactions because we have been doing some work. PFAS interaction with soil. Adsorption is the main process by which PFAS interact with soil. It includes both hydrophobic interaction with soil organic matter because PFAS is an organic chemical. Also electrostatic interaction with clay minerals because PFAS produces anions. So anions are attracted to positive charge. The adsorption increases with increasing length of PFAS compound. As the carbon chain increases, the adsorption increases. So we have been doing some work with PFAS. So what we did is, we took the control soil, which is then we added 9 organic matter at 1 level of carbon. Then we monitored the adsorption of both these two compounds, PFOA. So number 1, PFOS absorption is more than PFIA because it increases with decreasing solubility and hydrophobicity. The red one is for PFOS, much higher absorption. Number 2, absorption of PFAS, both of the compounds, increases with the addition of organic matter. So when you add organic matter, the absorption increases because PFAS is organic compound, hydrophobic, likes organic matter. We added same amount of organic matter. So there is some difference between these organic matters. The reason being, they contain different dissolved organic matter. So these organic amendments include all the way from biosolid to fish manure. So with increasing dissolved organic carbon, there is a decrease in absorption. So the difference between this organic matter on PFAS absorption is because they have different dissolved organic matter. Because we added same amount of carbon. So we were expecting the absorption will be same. It will increase but the same, but because they contain different dissolved organic matter. So that's number 1. Number 2, we look at the absorption using 3 kinds of soil: kaolinetic, smectitic, alophanic soils. We measured absorption of P4s, which is very high absorption, using both the soil and also we removed the organic matter from the soil. So the black bar are organic matter removed soil. So absorption followed alophanic soil, smectite soil, kaolinated soil, which is attributed to difference in clay mineralogy and organic matter content. Alophanic soil contain much higher organic matter, and alophanic's high surface area. Absorption decreased after the removal of organic matter. So the moment you remove organic matter, absorption decreases because PFAS is bound more to organic matter. However, alophanic soil, which is the last one, absorbs much higher, slightly higher compared to other 2 clays because alophanic has higher surface area. So in addition to that, for the same soil, we look at the desorption. PFAS is relatively soluble in water. Therefore, it reaches the groundwater, especially in soil containing low absorption capacity. That is the main issue. PFAS get into the groundwater, so when you drink the groundwater, you get toxic effect. So the PFAS desorption followed opposite to absorption, less in alophanic soil, because alophanic soil retain a lot of PFAS. Also, desorption increased with the removal of organic matter. Absorption decreased with the removal of organic matter. Desorption increased with the removal of organic matter. So therefore, it says PFAS adsorbed onto organic matter is less likely to be dissolved. Look at the plant uptake. PFAS can be taken up by plant. So the PFAS uptake is PFOA is more compared to PFOS. Just opposite to absorption. So the more you absorb, less you uptake. Now that gives, this is high organic matter soil, low organic matter soil. In low organic matter soil, you take more uptake. Transfer factor is the ratio between plant and soil. So higher the bar, higher the uptake. So therefore, PFAS uptake increases with decreasing organic matter. So when you have organic matter, the absorption is much less. So organic matter can bind PFAS and reduce the uptake. This is a very interesting one because PFAS is attracted to high protein tissue. Most of the organic pesticides are attracted to lipid. PFAS is one compound which is attracted to protein. Now this is the work done by our university team. They are looking at hemp seed. This is a very novel research. Hemp is industrial hemp, cannabis, not marijuana. This is the industrial hemp. It contains 31% protein. So what they are doing is mixing the hemp seed with the groundwater. So it binds the PFAS, then you filter that. So you remove PFAS. This is a very new area of research, using protein to bind PFAS. But the problem is, when PFAS getting into our system, it binds with the protein. So that's the toxicity. So you can use the protein to remove the PFAS, but when it gets into human, it binds with the protein. Degradation of PFAS, as I told you, PFAS is very resistant to temperature, heat. That's the reason they produce PFAS, because they can control heat, fire. PFAS degradation include abiotic and biotic. Abiotic degradation include thermal, chemical, and photo degradation process. Most of the PFAS compounds are very resistant or recalcitrant to biodegradation by naturally occurring microorganism. I don't think biodegradation is a pathway for PFAS because they are very resistant to degradation. So we talked about what are PFAS, sources of PFAS, mainly from flame retardant and also landfill leachate and also from wastewater treatment. We look at the dynamics of PFAS mainly through adsorption, mainly by soil organic matter. That when you have a lot of soil organic matter, PFAS can be adsorbed, less available for leaching, less available for plant uptake. Now let us look at the exposure and toxicity. The major pathway of human exposure of PFAS include drinking contaminated water. That's what's happening in Australia. Majority of the groundwater are contaminated with PFAS. Ingesting food contaminated with PFAS, mainly fish and shellfish. Eating food packaged in material containing PFAS. I know there are a lot of students here. You love pizza, you love popcorn. The boxes you are getting is PFAS coated. So every time you eat pizza, please be careful. In addition to that, hand-to-mouth transfer also contribute to PFAS uptake. And also workers associated with PFAS industries are exposed to a higher level of PFAS, what we call occupational exposure. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified one of the PFAS compound as group 2B carcinogen, possibly carcinogenic human. You are all very familiar with these two people. One is Erin Brockovich, other is Julia Roberts. She acted in one of the movie called Erin Brockovich, Chromium Toxicity. So the Australian public brought Erin Brockovich to talk about PFAS. PFAS typically associated with the liver, protein, and bloodstream in human with a half-life of 2 to 9 years. So that's why it is a persistent chemical. There are a lot of concern in Australia about PFAS. PFAS has been used for the last 20, 30 years. It is not a new chemical, but it is an emerging contaminant of concern. So I say emerging, not an emerging contaminant, it's an emerging contaminant of concern because we have been using for a long. Because humans are exposed to different PFAS sources, as I explained to you, it is difficult to determine the level of exposure from these sources. It's very difficult to fingerprint. Now this is the blood concentration from various countries with time, PFAS compounds in the blood. The good thing is, these surveys indicate PFAS levels on blood are dropping due to the reduced use of PFAS. So people are using less and less PFAS. Therefore, the concentration in the blood is going down. That's a good thing. But the bad thing is, every one of us is having blood in PFAS in our blood. 100% of the human population. Because PFAS is everywhere. The clothes we are wearing, the carpet, Professor Ming Wang is happily on the chair, that also contain PFAS. PFAS is used to control heat resistance. So PFAS is used everywhere. It's omnipresent, like God. It's everywhere. Not a good God. So we all have PFAS in our blood. We cannot escape. So we talked about sources. It is everywhere. Dynamics, soil organic matter is the main important. Exposure, drinking water, and also ingestion of food. Now let us briefly look at remediation. There are 3 approaches to remediation: destruction, filtration, and immobilization. Destruction: soil, waste like biosolid, groundwater. It involves oxidation, electrochemical, reduction, zero valent material, defluorination, thermal decomposition, pyrolysis. Pyrolysis is used to produce biochar, as Professor Ming Wang just explained to you. Filtration is mainly for groundwater, nanofiltration, reverse osmosis. Both of them are very expensive. That's the problem. The most common one is immobilization. Again, soil, waste like biosolid, groundwater. You can use activated carbon, anion exchange, because PFAS occurs as an anion. So it is attracted to positive charge. This is the one of the material from our team called MatCare, Professor Ravi Naidu's team. Hemp seed, I just explained to you. So immobilization is the most common technique. But in immobilization, you cannot remove the chemical. You can make it less bioavailable, as Professor Ming Wang just explained to you. This is the technique we use for heavy metal very commonly. So you add some chemicals to immobilize. But we need an integrated approach. Not one solution can be applicable. So it can be nanofiltration followed by immobilization, or oxidation or reduction. So finally, some conclusions. The sources, point source is firefighting foam, which is used in defense. Diffuse sources, biosolid, recycled water, landfill leachate. So that's why my title was PFAS Beyond Defense. It is not just in defense. Soil interaction, adsorption through both hydrophobic partition and electrostatic interaction. Adsorption component, both clay mineral and organic matter. Organic matter is much more important because it's an organic chemical. Desorption, PFAS adsorption increases with increasing organic matter, but desorption decreases with increasing organic matter. So organic matter is very good in keeping PFAS non-leachable, non-bioavailable. Exposure pathways, drinking water, and ingestion of PFAS-containing food. Toxicity, group 2B carcinogen, but luckily PFAS levels in people's blood are dropping due to the reduced use of PFAS in commercial product. Remediation, mainly through immobilization, filtration in soil and groundwater. Finally, what is the take-home message? There are two take-home messages. PFAS contamination occurs beyond defense site, resulting from landfill leachate, biosolid, and recycled water. So people always ask why you have a title PFAS Beyond Defense. Two reasons. One is you cannot blame only the defense. It occurs beyond defense site. Number two is it's a very toxic chemical. You cannot defend it. So PFAS Beyond Defense. Remediation of PFAS contaminated soil and groundwater remain a major challenge. Australia is putting a lot of funding on research on PFAS. So if some of our Korean student wants to come and do PhD in Australia, please come and do PhD with us. I'm stealing your student. I just want to thank my past and present students who contributed to this research. Once again, thank you for inviting me to give this presentation. It's a great honor to come and give this presentation. Thank you.